We gather this day, stranger and friend,
known and unknown,
all loved by God.
We gather to worship,
to offer concern and joy,
to be reminded to love as we have been loved.
So let us worship God. Please be seated for the opening prayer. Gracious God, we place ourselves in your presence. Our minds and our spirits are cluttered. Help us make space for you. Help us to be fully present here, now. We release our fears. We release our anxiety. We release our impatience. We release our pride. All of the thoughts, all of the feelings that pull us away from you, O God, we release. And now, with open hearts, we receive what you offer us now. We receive the gift of this space and this time. We receive the gift of being with each person here. We receive the Holy Spirit's presence within us for guidance and healing. We receive the sacred words that will be spoken in thought. We receive the holy touch of hand.
We receive the silence. We receive the music. Fill us now with
Deep abiding presence. We offer all of ourselves to you, our God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer. Amen. Today's scriptures is from Psalms chapter 91, verses 1 through 16. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, no scourge come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Those who love me I will deliver. I will protect those who know my name. When they call to me, I will answer them. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue them and honor them. With long life I will satisfy them and show them my salvation. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Great. All right. So a few things. First of all, I'm not technically a reverend, so ignore that in your bulletin. Never went the whole way, so I'm not officially revered. I am by some. Thank you, Byron. I am available for weddings and funerals still, however. And the occasional preaching. So again, I'm really happy to be here. I was just reflecting how amazing it is to be here. It's been 8 years since I moved to Concord. Many of you were among the first people that I met when I came here. You made me feel at home. And as I watched my husband and my 2 daughters earlier, I was just really grateful for the journey that's brought me here. I never would have expected when I moved here, my second year of seminary, no kids, where I would have come. So it's really good to be home. This is my home in Concord, and it is so good to see you guys and be here and share with you. I always meant to become one of those people that memorized their sermons. Never did. So this morning I want to share with you two things. My sermon's going to be in two parts. My first is going to be about a trip I took a few years ago, and the second part is going to be about where we are today, talking about journeys and kind of where we are and where we might be headed. So, almost 2 years, just a little over 2 years ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot and killed on August 9th, 2014, by Darren Wilson, a white police officer, in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, I've always been an avid reader of the news and follower of current events, and I started to see stories on social media, particularly Tumblr and Twitter, about this shooting that didn't line up with how the mainstream media was portraying the story, if they portrayed it at all. I started to read about how tear gas was being deployed against unarmed protesters. I began to see pictures of police officers dressed like soldiers but strolling down American streets. I began to see the discrepancies between the people who were on the ground in Ferguson and the people who were reporting about Ferguson. And when I talked to people IRL, in real life, around here, very few seemed to know what was going on. If they knew anything, it was about the riots or the looting that was going on over there, far away. But I knew from my explorations in social and alternative media that there was more to the story than either of those two things. A few weeks after the shooting, I found myself in a unique position. I had a vacation planned, and my plans fell through. As I was reading about the escalating situation in Missouri and watching videos of the kind of police response I never thought to see in this country, I started to feel a strong pull. And I realized that I had this vacation planned, I had the time off work, I had a car, I had childcare for my daughter, that I could go. I could seriously get in the car and go to Ferguson and see for myself what was going on. So I checked it out online, tweeted a few tweets, checked a few websites. There was a march planned for the Saturday of my break. And so I went. 2 days of driving, it's about 18 hours total. I stopped in Ohio on the way with an Episcopal minister, actually, that I had met online, spent the night there, and then got to Ferguson. I spent one night on the couch of someone that I met on Twitter, then quickly moved to stay in someone else's guest room, the pastor's sister, when things got a little weird, as they do when you spend the night on the couch of someone you met on Twitter. I ate at restaurants. I walked around Ferguson with my guitar strapped to my back because it gave me a bit of a purpose. I introduced myself as a musician in search of a song from Concord, New Hampshire. Most people weren't really sure where New Hampshire was. And if they did know, they were really confused about why someone would travel all the way from New Hampshire to Ferguson, Missouri. I searched for songs. I chatted with people. I marched. I took pictures. I witnessed. And it was awful. I ended up leaving a day or two earlier than I planned because I felt like I had seen what I had been pulled there to see. I could talk for over an hour about my experiences over my 3 days there, but then Peter would never invite me back, and you guys would also be happy about that. So I decided instead, this morning, to give you just the words of the people I spoke with context, but without my interpretation of them. I was able to capture quite a few quotations. I wrote them down as people spoke to me. And I believe they encapsulate the strangeness and the melancholy and the tension and the frustration and the fear that have become far too familiar for all of us in the 2 years since Ferguson. My first stop was the memorial where Mike Brown was killed. A young black man was sweeping up broken glass. Someone had driven through the memorial the night before and broken a bunch of candles. The young man had been there the night they started throwing tear gas into the crowd. And this is what he said. "We were marching down West Florissant, just planning a peaceful protest, just marching. They barricaded us in, and there was a sniper on the roof, and he shot, bang! And the tear gas was right there, right next to me, and I ran for my life. It was right there. I just ran." His face, as he told the story and swept up the glass, It's strange, I probably couldn't recognize him if he stood in front of me, but I remember the look on his face, how afraid and confused he was as he remembered what he had gone through. An old woman at the memorial was talking about the need to keep things peaceful. Peace, she said, will get you justice. Ignorance will get you nowhere. There was a picture that many of you may have seen of protesters pouring milk over the face of someone who had been tear gassed, and they had broken into a McDonald's to take the milk from the refrigerator. And I hung out at that McDonald's right before the protest on the Saturday, and I chatted with a few people in the parking lot. And one kid stands out. He was about 20. He's from St. Louis. He's cheerful, a little bit spacey. He was one of the people who asked where New Hampshire was. And then he said, "They got black people in New Hampshire?" And I said, "Not many." And he said, "Are they racist there?" And I said, "Yeah, a lot of them." And that opened up a conversation about race and racism, all those uncomfortable things. Charles, the owner of Ferguson Burger, which opened the day before the shooting for the first time, it had been open every day since then, 21 days straight. The only thing he said was, "It's been a roller coaster." I remember the chants that swelled through the crowd as we marched up the hill towards the park, which is where we were supposed to go. Much of the crowd, including myself, trickled off instead and walked to the police station as we chanted, "There ain't no justice in the park." One of the women I walked with, the 2-mile walk to the police station, said to me, "I'm a teacher. I tell my kids, you do good things, you get good results. What do? Do I lie to them so they don't grow up afraid? Or do I tell them the truth? When I saw Mike Brown on TV, he looked like my baby brother. My stomach hurt when I saw it. Why are we out here fighting for things that should be a given, fighting for our lives?" One of the other musicians I met as we stood in front of a line of police officers for hours. "Cops go after low-hanging fruit," he said, "and black people have been low-hanging fruit for centuries." There's one more, a girl in her late teens, early 20s, and she was outside all day as we stood and sat right in front of this line of police officers. She was with her 6-month-old baby right up near the front. And she sat there and she just looked at the cops with her baby in the car seat, and she sat there all day. She didn't get up in their faces, she didn't argue, she didn't yell. She just sat, and she made them see her child. One of the officers gave her a bottle of water as the afternoon went on. I saw her taking part in conversation as the day went. I didn't speak to her till towards the end of the day. And then I found out that she had been at the store that burned down. There was one store that was burned down in an act of, some say vandalism, some say pointless violence. This woman had been there, and she told me, she showed me a video of people leaving the store as it burned that night. And she showed it to me because she wanted me to know why it happened. She wanted me to know that it was a conscious choice, not mindless destruction. And these are her words. They worked hard to get everyone out of the store before it burned. They didn't want nobody to get hurt. They knew wasn't nobody going to pay attention to us until we did something bigger. No one was listening to us. Going through my notes and the things that I brought back has also brought back a lot of those feelings that welled up towards the end of my visit. I didn't really write many songs after that trip. I wanted to. I wished I could write a song. I wished I could find something that would somehow tie together the multitude of loose images and thoughts and ideas that resulted from this journey. I wanted to wrap something up. I wanted to have something I could hold on to, a takeaway. I wanted something I could preach. Well, in the 2 years since Ferguson, finding something that will preach in our current racial, political, and economic climate has gotten no easier. In the whirlwind of racially charged violence that has swept through our country and our news feeds over the last few months, with the shooting of black men by police followed by the shooting of police by black men followed by the shooting of black men by police, more violence every week, it is hard to find hope these days. In addition to the racial conflict is the stark reality of a police force that has become increasingly militarized over the past few years. In Ferguson, police who look like soldiers became the norm. And now we don't blink an eye when we see fully outfitted soldiers lined up at political demonstration behind lines of police in riot gear. Military-grade equipment has been quietly routed to local police departments around the country over the past few decades, empowered by quietly signed executive orders. Each shooting of police is used to rationalize further militarization. Each shooting by police creates further distance between those who are paid poorly to keep a sometimes ungrateful populace safe, and the people who are tired of asking over and over again, why are they shooting us? Round and round it goes, a cycle of violence with no end in sight, the 24-hour news cycle feeding our fear, our mistrust, our judgment, urging us to separate from one another, highlighting our differences, and choosing to focus on the stories that will create the most hurt, the most fear, the clickbait headlines that will grab our attention quickly from amidst the ads that tell us we're not rich enough, we're not thin enough, that there isn't enough to go around, that we are in this alone, that your neighbor hates you, that we are separate, all of it whispering, always whispering that we are not enough, that fear is all that we have. Maya Angelou once said, "Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Choose one and invite it to stay." Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Choose one and invite it to stay. Brothers and sisters, we are a people of hope. People of faith, and United Methodists in particular, throughout history have stood against fear, have stood in spite of fear, have stood shaking with fear, and yet spoken truth to power. We are a people who time and time again choose hope over fear. Furthermore, those of you who are here this very morning are a people of hope. To get up on a morning in late August, right before school starts, in the midst of the world's chaos and your life's chaos, to come together to hear some sleep-deprived, crazy green-haired lady talk about how there's hope in the face of everything bad and nasty that's out there in the world, that makes you a person of hope, my friend, each and every one of you. What does choosing hope look like? It looks like making connections. It looks like taking the time to foster connection in real life with real people, with friends and families and neighbors. When times are hard, when hurt people are hurting people in terrible ways, it is the people who are close to you who will get you through it, and you'll get them through it too. My big takeaway from Ferguson: the message that it's taken me 2 years to tease out and untangle and hold up to the light, the thing that I can preach is this: choose hope. When the TV and Facebook and the radio tell you to choose fear because it is the only option, choose hope and believe that there is good in the world, even if mainstream media isn't reporting it. When it's easier to turn off your brain and plug into your smartphone, do the harder thing and connect with the people who are right in front of you. And if there's nobody in front of you, go find somebody. Create connection, foster connection, grow and sustain connection. Get up on a Sunday morning and come to church. Y'all can check that one right off. Make that play date with your kid's friend. Have family dinner. Call a friend, like on the phone, and talk with your mouth, with words, not just your thumbs, right? Come to community events. Make friends with your neighbors. Invite hope to stay, and there will be no space for fear. Choosing hope sometimes means making hard choices about what to speak about. I've had a lot of people get angry at me when I start talking about things like Black Lives Matter and white privilege and systemic white supremacy. But that's part of being a people of hope. That's part of our journey towards liberty and justice for all. Choosing hope means believing that we can affect change in our world, even when everything we read about or hear about tells us otherwise. It means asking scary questions like, are we racist? And being prepared to feel seriously uncomfortable about the answers we might get, but to keep asking questions anyway. I believe that choosing hope is a radical and necessary action in a world that denies its existence. I believe that in times of fear, good people who choose hope can change the world. I believe that we are a people of hope. And I believe that we can change the world. Amen.